Hi everybody! Part 52 of my doll's house diary, and I don't know if you can hear me because my cat's just walked all over my keyboard and changed all the settings to my microphone, and I don't know how to turn them back. 1 second, let me just check. How does that sound? Is that any better? I don't know, hopefully so. Anyway, this morning I woke up so early. I woke up at about 4:30 in the morning and I couldn't sleep because all I could think about was what to make for my doll's house. I had a free crafting day and yeah, I was so excited to get started. So I got out my things, including my sketchbook with my little list, and the first thing I came across was these lollipop sticks. So I thought, I'm going to start my attic and I'm going to start the floorboards. However, I searched this box and I could not find my tool that I use for cutting the lollipop sticks. So I decided to have a little rethink and decided to make something else today instead. And that something else was going to be my miniature sink. And the way that I decided was by having a little look through my list that I'd been creating in my little sketchbook and having a look at what I still needed to do. And whilst I was there, I also ticked off some of the things that I've already done. So, I've made a pot for the oven, I've made a bucket, I've made a little bed sheet, portrait of mole, yep, that's done. Still got to renovate the loft space, so that's not going to get started today. Portraits of ancestors, great suggestion, that's done. I've still got lots of things on this list, and there's something missing as well. I'll make the curtains to go around the bed at my next Dunelm knit and stitch group that happens once a month. I try to save my textilesy jobs for there. So, I keep my polyfiller under here. Don't ask why, because I don't know the answer. It's not really a sensible place to keep it, is it? And please don't look at the state of my carpet. My mum's borrowed my vacuum cleaner and I need it back. Right, so I'm collecting together the bits to make my miniature sink. And if you've watched my previous videos, you might know that I've already mentioned this, because I asked what size sink I should have. So, I'm going to actually be starting my miniature sink by using an upturned doll's house sofa that I had in the doll's house that I've not started working on yet, and it came with loads of other furniture. So I've got quite a few of these doll's house sofas and I don't need them, but I realised if you turn it upside down, it looks like a sink. Now there's a little gap at the back of it, which I noticed was about the width of a lollipop stick, so that's going to go behind the sink. I'll show you what I'm going to do in a second, but first, how cute is she? Oh, I forgive her for walking across my keyboard. So, the lollipop stick is going to go at the back here, and that little raised lip will be the bit that sits just above the skirting board. Now of course, I said I wanted to make the floorboards today, but I couldn't because I couldn't cut the lollipop sticks because I can't find my cutting tool. And I still have the same problem here, but I thought I might find a way just to do 2 little cuts. So I started by trying to use these jewellery cutters. That didn't work. And then I got a pair of scissors and it cut through really easily. So maybe those floorboards are back on the cards now. So I lined up how big I needed this to be. And I actually used my craft knife to make a little line mark on here before cutting, and then I cut it to size. And I used my trusty Yoo-hoo glue that I've used for almost all of my projects to just stick this onto the back of the sofa. It's nice to be able to reuse a piece of furniture that I wouldn't otherwise be using. As I say, it just came with the doll's house, and I have quite a few of them. I seem to have 2 sets of everything. So I stuck down the lollipop stick here, and of course this needs to look like a stone sink. In the Tudor era, I've done some research because I wanted to check to see if they would have a sink in the kitchen, and the Tudor era spanned quite a long period of history, so obviously there will have been changes across that time. But some of the bits that I've read said that they would sometimes have a stone sink in there, but normally the washing of things would have been done outdoors. But I thought I'll still have a stone sink. So to make my stone sink, I'm using some polyfiller. If you've watched my videos before, you'll have seen me make a stone effect for the flooring of the kitchen, and also for the surround around the windows, and for the worktop of the oven, and the surround around the fireplace, so I've used polyfiller a lot of times. So what I did here was I just mixed some water with a bit of yellow ochre acrylic paint, just to change the colour of the polyfiller slightly. And then I made up a consistency that was a bit like butter icing for a cake. And I sculpted it around the wooden structure. Talking about polyfiller, for one of my previous projects, B&Q commented on one of my Instagram posts because I'd been using polyfiller bought from them. This isn't a sponsored advert or anything. I think you can buy polyfiller from quite a few different places. But that was a real highlight for me. I was like, B&Q, they're interested in my doll's housing. Oh. I found it really peaceful and therapeutic putting this polyfiller on. I imagine it's probably like icing a cake, although I haven't ever iced a cake and I'm really not a great baker. But I don't know, it was just really nice and relaxing, and it seemed to go nice and smoothly. I don't just mean that the polyfiller was smooth, I mean like it actually went well. I didn't make many mistakes, which is always great. Although I'm aware that this doesn't actually look like it was going well. Honestly, this is a real success. So this is what it looked like when it was dry. Okay, it's coming together now, isn't it? So, to make this an even better shape, once it was all completely dry, I took my craft knife and started just to gently scrape away at any bits that were rough and any bits that I thought were affecting the shape. Now, obviously, please don't copy what I'm doing, because this is a sharp craft knife and it's not made for sort of peeling away polyfiller. Yeah, don't copy how I'm doing things, just in case it's not safe. That was a little mistake there. I don't know if you can just see that little darker patch. That's where I'd scraped away the polyfiller and actually just exposed a little bit of the wood by accident, but it was on the underside, so it's not too noticeable. But as I scraped away, I could really see the shape of the sink coming together. You might be able to see there that some of the polyfiller looks a little more yellowy in colour. That's because I mixed up a second batch, and when I mixed it up, I think that the paint had concentrated a bit because there was less water in the pot, and it just meant there was a bit of a darker colour. So where I'd scraped away too much and there was wood on shirt, I just put a little bit of glue down and used some of the scrapings and stuck them back on. And then when that was dry, I just scraped away again just to try and perfect the shape. On the underside of the sink, I decided to carve away a little marking, just like a stonemason would. I thought it was a nice little touch. By the way, I did decide to use the smaller sofa in the end, but I did also do the larger one, so I have a spare sink. I might pop it on the side like a horse trough. So, it was time to pop it into the house to see how it looked. Although it was quite obvious straight away that it was far too new looking, especially in comparison to the stonework around the fireplace and on the floor. So, I decided to get a little pot of eyeshadow. This isn't eyeshadow that I use as makeup, it is my arty eyeshadow that I use on lots of art projects. And then I started by using the black, but actually I quickly changed to the brown. The brown was a lot better in terms of a nice soft sort of colour to make it look a bit more aged. When I made the stone floor look aged, I actually used soft pastels, which gave me a bigger range of colours, so that's another option if you're doing a similar project. I found it quite hard to put the eyeshadow into the crevices inside the sink, so I did then go and get a paintbrush that was just a dry paintbrush so that I could use it to soften the edges and just merge that eyeshadow in a little bit better. What do you think? I don't think it looks like a sofa anymore, does it? So, I went to put it back into my doll's house, and I'm not sure yet how I'm going to actually fit it in place. Obviously I could just put some glue at the back of it, that would be the easiest option. But I like the fact that pretty much everything in this doll's house is removable, and I am a little bit concerned that somebody might comment and tell me that this is really historically inaccurate and the stone sink just wouldn't have been there. So I don't want to really add it as a permanent fixture. It does fall down though whilst it's not in place, so I have just wedged a little piece of polyfiller that had hardened underneath in the far corner, but that obviously can't stay there. So I need to have a think about how I'm going to make it stand. I could just get some double-sided tape and pop it behind it maybe, or a glue dot, although I like to see it nice and flush against the wall, so a glue dot would probably push it forward slightly. For now, I've just used one of my little pumpkins and propped it up against it, and it's making it stand up perfectly. So I had a little play with the arrangement of my pumpkins until I was happy with it. But yeah, for now it's not fixed in place properly. I am wondering as well whether I want to put something inside the sink. Now obviously I could use some resin to put some water inside the sink, just like I have with the bucket, but I might want to put some items in there that are being washed. When looking up the history of Tudor kitchens and sinks, I read that they used to use sand as sort of an abrasive material to scrub and scour and clean things, which I found really, really interesting. And as I said, a lot of things they took outside to wash, they would take them to the water rather than bringing the water in, because obviously there wasn't plumbing, there wasn't a plug hole in the sink to drain the water away, so it would have been a very difficult job. Anyway, please do comment and let me know what you think. And thank you so much for watching. Oh, by the way, next Wednesday's video, I need your help, so please tune in. Thank you.